So we are good to go?
Yes.
Yes. So we'll start directly this. So firstly, hello everyone. I would like to introduce our guest for this project management experiential learning project, and we have with us Jay Carlson. And Ivy, if you can go to introduction page.
Yeah,
Jay is having a rich, diverse background in the healthcare as well as the engineering, and she's having she has been leading the NASA L'SPACE NPWEE Academy team as a project manager, and also she has been the vice president of the rocketry club at Edmos College, and along with that, she has been currently pursuing the mechatronics and automation technology engineering at Edmos College, Linwood, and along with that, she is having a technical degree in the healthcare with in nurse assistant, and along with that, she is the full stack development. She is having full stack development in computer science at University of Washington. And this is a brief introduction about Jay. And so, Jay, if you can please share your experience with respect to what you are currently into, so that whoever will be watching this video later, they can get to know about you more.
Yeah. I think right now, one of the projects that I'm working on, that's taking a lot of my time is, so since I'm vice president of rocketry, we are working on uh, competing in the competition called IREC, which stands for like the International Rocketry Engineering Competition. I believe it takes place in June. The location is not determined yet. Hopefully in the future you guys can go too, because it's a international competition. But yeah, everyone around the world is competing. And so this is going to be our first time going. Um, to be honest with you, it was supposed to be, we should have went years ago, but because of the pandemic, everything was delayed because at least in America, when COVID happened, we moved online. There was no in-person class. So we didn't have access to the college and we didn't have any access to our rockets. So we're starting all over again and we're going to try to build the rocket and hopefully we'll be flying 2025. So that's my biggest project right now. Um, let's see what else. I just finished a manufacturing project for one of my classes. Um, it was for E-Tech 110, I believe. So I part of mechatronics. Okay, part of like if you go like deeper from mechatronics, you can go into also goes into a little bit of manufacturing. And so I've been learning a lot about that. And so, manufacturing rockets or manufacturing, robotics and stuff is part of the pathway, um, to building. And part of project management too, when you have these big projects is, what is the best way you can communicate to a team um, that can be the most effective for people to move forward. Um, so, for example, when I was doing my manufacturing project, um, one of the things that was like a conflict there that I haven't encountered before is uh, people of different skill bases. So like for example, you guys, you're all in like the engineering division and you're all, everyone has a skill set. Maybe it'll be like CAD, maybe it'll be like math, maybe it'll be like, manufacturing. Um, but this particular class that I was taking, this was like an intro class. So a lot of people were either deep in engineering, or some people were just new to college. And so that was very hard to manage a bunch of different ages. Like I'm older. So some of the people that were there were like maybe 16 or 17 years old. And so the expectation is a little bit different if you're like a kid versus like the adults in the group. So that was very hard.
Oh, that's amazing. So there are few questions that we have.
Yes.
I mean, there is a lot of things that we want to know, but due to time
Yeah.
limitation and the scope of the of this meeting, we have shortlist and we have few of the questions. So I guess Ivy, you can start with few of the questions.
Yeah. Hello, Jay.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you tell me about how project management differs in aerospace sector?
Sorry, repeat that one more time.
Can you tell me how project management differs in aerospace sector?
Oh, how's project management in the aerospace sector?
Yeah.
So, what's really interesting about that from like my experience with NASA, um, and I also talked to my professor about this too. So there's a lot of varying opinions on this. So I'll kind of share the wide range of opinions. So, there's two types of project management. There is a what's called a technical project manager and a project manager. And the difference between the two is the technical project manager has skills to do the project as well as manage the project. Um, so for me personally, I like to be in a technical project manager role because I want to be able to um, help like my team if someone says like, hey, I need help in, like design or I need help in math or whatever. I want to be able to, or like coding, I want to be able to come in and help and like assist them. But for my personal perspective, there are project managers that are not technical. And what makes it really challenging is when you have these project managers, they give you a deadline and they give you more expectations, but they don't know how long things are going to take. So if a project is going to take, you know, 8 months and they say, oh, can you do it in 6 months? They're going to push that more harder because they don't know how much work is going to be put into the project, if that makes sense.
Okay. So my next question is what type of tools and platforms we using managing projects, especially with reference to NASA?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So honestly, there's a lot. And and also with this, it also changes depending on what the project is. So I've used like Trello, Notion, I've used Gamma.app. I use a lot of AI assisted tools to do like specifically NASA projects. Um, but I'm going to say that super carefully because some people think AI means that you're not doing the work, and that's not true. Um, when it comes to AI, you have to be very careful with if it's informational work that you're always checking it. Because when I was doing NASA L-Space, there was a lot of um, I was asking it about certain planets. So always fact check your AI because it could be wrong. But I do use AI a lot for design tools as well.
Okay, that's so great.
Oh, and the next question that I was
Yeah.
wondering about, Jay, is how do we identify the risks associated with the project when we are at the preliminary stage only, without directly going into the manufacturing?
Oh, yes, yes. So there's a like uh, I have so many things to say. I'm so excited. So to be a really good project manager and how to assess risk, one of the things project manager will be a thing called SWOT analysis. It's spelled SWOT analysis. And basically what that is like it gives you a map of how, if you've never done a project like this before, um, or like it's a very big overarching project, what problems you're going to run into. So I did use, so this is funny. So they didn't teach SWOT analysis for my basic manufacturing class, but I had to use it because there was so many unknown variables to complete the project. And so if you write them down in the SWOT analysis, you should be able to um, figure out where your weaknesses are.
Oh, all right. That's very well put. And another question that I'm having is how do we estimate the cost of the projects at the preliminary stage again? Like, what are the kind of tools that we use in order to estimate the cost, and how do we manage the project is not exceeding the cost or budget constraints? And if it does, what are the processes that we follow, especially in the NASA?
So for for budget, I don't personally like work on budget, but what I will say is for all the NASA projects that I've worked on, they would give you like a template. And I'm unsure what, like if it was how much like the Milo Academy and the L-Space were similar, but for the budget person, they had a like a template, some kind of like template that kind of itemizes the things to look for in like a project. Um, and then as far as like budgeting tools go and stuff, this is an area I'm unsure of. I am working with budget for my own rocketry club right now, which is different, but I mostly just use like Google Sheets to manage like budget stuff. And then maybe I use assistance with AI to see if I could be missing something. But for budget stuff, I just do an overview. I don't do like in depth, if that makes sense for me personally.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So there are a lot of
Okay,
activities
so
that
now
will be
proceed.
going. Hello.
What was that?
Yeah. So there will be a lot of activities going on in a project, right? So how do
Mm.
you schedule the activities based on the timeline?
Oh, so basically, what I try to do for that, there's a couple tools you can use for that. One of the main ones is the Gantt chart. It's spelled GANTT chart. But there's other program. Gantt is the main one, but there's been some new tools that I've been learning in manufacturing on how to um, measure time. There's another one I'm going to tell you that I just learned called tact time, TATK time. I think that's how you spell it. Let me just double check real quick. And so basically what that means is let's see here. Oh, T TAKT time. Okay. Basically what that is you measure how long a task is taking. So let's say, for example, if you're cutting parts or you're writing documents or something like that, you can, what is it called? You can measure how much time it takes. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was using like the laser cutter, right, or 3D printer, how long is it going to take to cut this part and how many parts is it going to take, etc. And so just getting better at like measuring how long a task will take, but also make sure you give buffer time. So if if a project, part of the project is going to take 3 days, I'm going to say do it'll be 4 days. You want to make sure that you always do like a greater amount of time than less because you can always um how do you describe it? It looks better if you're on time versus if you're late.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And so there are a lot of questions, but uh, as we're talking about projects, I would like to ask you like there are how do you ensure the quality of a project that if it's meeting uh, whatever the requirements they are given or not?
Yeah, so I can use two examples for this. One is manufacturing and the other one is like rocketry. So even if you are, so in engineering, they will put you in a lot of projects that you have no prior experience on. Kind of like, like me building like this big rocket. I've built a rocket before, but nothing this big, right? So how do I know that it's not gonna just blow up and and fail, right? So a couple things to make sure your quality is really high is make sure you have what's called a SME, um, a subject matter expert. So in our rocketry project, we have one SME for every sub team for rocketry. And so making sure that we have somebody who is more familiar with a certain process that like we students don't have the experience on is important to have. Um, and then the second thing is, and I'm not sure if you guys have this there or not, we have sometimes what's called like a lab technician. So if you're doing like a project where you're building something, um, like it could be like 3D printing or like wood, building with wood or something like that. Um, Usually you have someone like a lab technician that can tell you what is like the easiest or the best way to do something or what are the best materials to use for that project. So making sure you always touch base with people who are more familiar with that type of quality will make sure your project will go very well.
Right, that's very insightful again. And also, one of the preliminary question I was having that if we are trying to get started with the new project that is completely new to us, how do we? What's the better way? The way we can define the scope of that project using any of the, especially when it is space and a defense kind of project. How do we define the scope of that
Oh,
project?
oh, that's perfect. Yeah, so this is great. So what's amazing about all engineering projects is no matter how big the project is, there's always instructions. And one of the things, I mean, I kind of want to get a sticker for my laptop that says this. It's kind of a joke, is if you do project management, it says, have you read the instructions, right? And so everything, let's say like NASA, defense, or like government, they'll always have a scope of something that they're looking for. So every project is going to have a requirements section, whether you set the requirements or you find the requirements. Like even for example, like NASA tops will have like a requirement or objective. You will have your constraints for the project. So like constraints will be something like measurements, or limitations or things that you absolutely cannot do. Um, and then requirements, constraints. I feel like I'm missing one more thing. requirements, constraints, and hmm, I can't remember, but there's something else, but anyways, and then also the other thing too is when it comes to like NASA specifically, or even maybe some government stuff, there's a lot of resources online that you can check to figure out what your scope of your project is. So if you're trying to do something, for example, like space debris, um, like NASA or whomever, will have a um, like a what was it, areas of studies, or like was it, I can't remember what it's called. It's like technology, like focus areas, and
Technology
then you can
readiness,
go from there.
I guess. Uh, is it something called as technological readiness level? Because I remember
Yes.
that from my low.
No, not wait. Yeah, that is part of it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I just remember that. Hold on, let's see here. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So yes. So when you're doing something that has to do with flight specifically, so if it's like a CubeSat, I don't know if you guys are doing CubeSats, but CubeSats, rocket, satellite, um, uh, or maybe even a rover, right? You will use the TRL system. Um, but I'm trying to think. There are, let me look, let's see here. Um, let's see. Okay. Okay, it was the NASA technology taxonomy. Um, so like they will there will be like groups. You can use NASA, you can use there like different aerospace and defense companies. There's a lot. There's so many of them. I feel like there's so many of them. Um, but yeah, so you can see also too, even just something simple as there's these things called like engineering challenge objectives, and I'll send them to you on LinkedIn. And basically is uh there is like a criteria for like engineers are supposed to help society, right? In some way. Um, Space, technology, something like that. And so you can look at what these objectives are, and they can help you um, narrow down your scope or your requirements or your constraints.
All right, that's very well answered. So, Soana, you have any more questions?
Yeah, as see, we are working on a lot of projects. So if we take a aerospace project like designing an eVTOL, how long do you think that a single subsystem like design and structures will take to perform all the theoretical data and like only the theoretical data and analysis? How long do you think it will take us to complete the part of a single subsystem?
Oh, let's see. So it depends on how complicated it is. So for example, if you're looking at like, let's say like an avionics subsystem, right? And this is part of project management. So every time you look at a specific project or a part of your project, so a sub-team, you want to look at what is it's called the MVP, your minimum viable product, right? So you want to see what is the bare minimum requirements to compete um, or to be a part of a competition or whatever. And then also you can put your maximum goals, right? But you have to, um, with everything in engineering, there is always like a minimum and a maximum. And so sometimes when a project happens, even like coding, right? People want to add too many features or they want to add things and it becomes so complicated and it adds so much time. It's really good to just identify what your MVP is first and complete the MVP. And then if you want to add more features, to do that afterwards. Because what ends up happening is people create something. Um, and they'll add too many features and they'll run out of time and they will not complete their objective. Um, and they'll become overwhelmed and the project will not happen. On
Okay.
how long would that take? I have no idea. Um, for example, one of the problems that we're having right now, I mean, it's not really a problem, but so for Spaceport Cup, you get extra points if you develop a CubeSat system. But the problem is with the CubeSat system is it's very complex, right? So because it's very complex, you would need your own team only for CubeSat because it takes so much time. Because you have to 3D print, you have to design, you have to research a technology, and then you have to fit the requirements of the technology based off of what the competition wants. And I can't remember what the competition wants. It was like they want like AI or technology something. And so that really limits your team. So but that's optional. So it's like I decided to like not do CubeSat for our first competition launch because it's too complex and the MVP is that we go at all and then next year we could be more complex if that's helpful.
Mm.
Oh yeah, that is very again put very correctly. And also, what should be like if someone is currently maybe he might be what are the skills that we
Oh,
should focus on to be what are the things we should try to focus as an individual so that we can be a good project manager.
sorry, you cut out a little bit. So what I understand is that you said that what are like the skills and stuff that you would need to be a good project manager? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, let's
Yeah,
see.
correct.
I think to be a good project manager, you have to listen really well, but I think one of the main things is you need to be able to put your foot down for the project when it's needed. One of the things that is, you know, hard about being a project manager is that sometimes when you make really hard decisions and you have to say no to stuff, um, some people in your team may say, something negative like, oh, I don't like their decision or I disagree with this or whatever. But you have to be really confident in yourself when you are a project manager to make these decisions, but only make the decisions based off of not like your personal feeling. They have to be like evidence based, right? We can't have this feature because we don't have enough time, right? Um, and so sometimes when you put your foot down or stand up for yourself, there will be a lot of like conflicts in group dynamics. That's another thing I have to talk about is so I will say when I was doing my NASA project, I did get into a conflict with somebody, and it wasn't because I was doing anything at all. I was for, I'm trying to think, what was it? The MCA, the NASA Mission Academy, which is similar to the Milo. Um, I was the chief scientist, and what happened was that the chief scientist and the lead was it the lead systems engineer, they're supposed to be very close. And the reason being is because if you're trying to design something, it has to be off of the science. And so there's a lot of communication there. And what was happening was that the project manager of the project was like upset that I was doing a bunch of stuff, but I wasn't doing at that time the project manager role. Um, and so a lot of people, when you're doing your role and you're doing your role really well, um, like researching the science and making sure that's communicated and doing your best, you are still going to run into conflicts, even if you follow all the rules. Uh, so just being really strong and confident to like move forward is really important.
Oh yeah, that's very well said. And Ivy, you have something to ask again?
Uh,
Yeah.
I have asked, I asked all my doubts. I'm clear.
Did you have a question also?
Uh, no, now I don't have any question for now. But is there something that you, from your side, want to share with respect to project management, or anything that is very helpful that we can kind of build something that might we also should consider that in future, while something regarding project management that you want to share?
I think so. Yeah, the last thing I'll say about project management is becoming familiar with, what the different project management tools are, um, and just being able to know which ones to pull from your toolbox, right, is really important. I'm just gonna list a few things that I pull from very frequently. Um, One thing to look up is what was it? Management theory styles. So there's XYZ uh theory styles. I do AZ management. Um, the other thing to look up is become familiar with Agile. Some projects will use Agile, some will not use Agile at all. Um, let's see what else. Uh, Another tool I use a lot is this tool called the Eisenhower Matrix. I could, yeah, just try your best to spell it. Is It's complicated, and it's just used for how people should communicate um in a team, right? Because sometimes, people talk to each other and nothing will get done, or people will forget. So the Eisenhower matrix makes sure that either you're doing the task or you tell somebody to do the task right away, so nothing gets forgotten. Um, let's see what else tool. Another tool I use is this thing called the burn down chart. Um, and the burn down chart, I learned it originally from NASA. I think it's called the fire down chart, but theirs is so complicated. I do a simple one. You just take your you take a task, and each task has a time uh allotted to it. So let's say spending, 1 hour on research or something, and you add up all the steps for your project into hours. So let's say this project is 300 hours. And so basically, you are trying to measure um, you completing tasks over time should go down, and then your deadline is on your x-axis, and then the amount of tasks to do is on your y-axis. So you want to make sure that it's always trending down, and if it is trending up, you know you have a problem and you can get to it right away. Um, so yeah, so that would be those are all the tools I use most frequently. So hopefully that's helpful. Oh, you're muted.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
you're
That's
good.
something that's something we can look into in the future while managing the projects very effectively. And I guess the meeting is ending in 4 minutes because of the timer. And
Oh, no worries.
yeah, so yeah, that was very. It was very good to see the progress, and especially through this EL part. Also, we could connect with you after a long. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining us and letting us interview with this project.
Of course, anytime, anytime. Thank you for reaching out. Sorry, I've been like, I haven't messaged in a while. I've been so busy.
Surely, it's very all right. Maybe sometime we Suhana and I, as I mentioned earlier regarding our startups Spike Launch Corporation, and maybe
Oh,
through
yes.
that we can meet up soon.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, you have something to say now?
Yeah,
Finally,
like
conclusion.
all the things like systems engineering and project management, we have only learned in semesters like classes. And when we heard from you, like how you use it and all, it was like uh, we got a lot of idea and deeper knowledge about it. So thank you, Jay.
You're very welcome. Yes, anytime.